Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and the patch notes are out outlining all the new nerfs and buffs going live later today. Should be like just under an hour after this video goes live. We're gonna go over all of them. Are they too much? Are they not enough? All that good stuff. And as always, if you enjoy the content on the channel, feel like I've earned your subscription, please hit that sub button down below. Give the video a like, it helps out a ton as we're on the road to 85,000 subscribers. I will link these patch notes down below. There's a bunch of Battlegrounds changes if you want to take a look at that. But for standard and wild and all that stuff, we have a dev comment here kind of going over why they're nerfing what they're nerfing. With this standard metagame, there's a variety of decks that are feeling balanced against each other. Okay, I would say they're so much balanced, but I guess in theory against each other. Because of that, we're only changing a couple of cards that are leading to unhealthy play patterns that we want to address. Tide Pool Pupil is quite strong and is allowing decks to copy key cards too easily and play them too many times per game, or like infinitely for a rogue. We hope this change doesn't delete the card from the metagame entirely, but does make it less effective as an enabler for combos and spells that are particularly effective when repeated many times per game. Doomkin isn't as much a statistical outlier, but is causing more frustration. The card seems to have overstayed its welcome, so we're slowing it down by a turn. We'll see how effective that is. By a turn to decrease its popularity. So, Tide Pool Pupil, as expected, going to 2 mana. They give it an extra health, so a tiny bit of stats. But yes, you can no longer Sonya Pupil and get a 0 mana Pupil. You will actually can't even shadow step this to make that work. It'll be kind of, I don't even know how to get this to 1. Regardless, yeah, the Sonya Infinite deck should be dead with this, and all the other decks that have been using it, like Insanity Warlock, which is like one of the best decks out there. Frost DK has been using it lately for Cold Feet, and even like Blood DK, like a ton of decks are using this. I know I'm missing some, like Overheal Priest and all of that. It's really effective, and at 2 mana, I feel like it'll still be pretty good. I feel like it still hits that spot for those decks. It's also important to note, like Pip no longer counts as 2, so you can't duplicate this nearly as easily in Rogue and Priest, or like at all. It's just kind of a one-time value bomb, which should be all right. Especially Insanity Warlock is the deck I'm the most scared of coming out of this patch, that and Death Knight. And yeah, I feel like they still play it and still are going to be incredibly good, because Crescendo is a pretty absurd card. But yeah, Tide Pool Pupil, the expected nerf, and I guess the expected nerf to Doomkin, it actually gets a stat increase. It goes from a 3/4 to a 4/5, but also goes to 7 mana. But still, you Flower Child this, it's 6 mana, still kind of hits that curve, right? So it's a little bit worrisome, I suppose. But that's like the dream situation. Of course, it'll be very impactful for that deck, but I don't think Druid's gonna really miss a beat. I feel like they either keep running this or they just run something else. They don't necessarily need this, but it's, you know, it should hopefully be less prevalent, and you have less games where a Druid has 12 mana and you have like, what, 5 or something. I feel like or less than that. I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like the card could have done a rework or something. It's just such an unfun one, and now it's like completely unplayable in Warlock. It's purely a Druid card, I would think, at this point, and we'll see if it still makes the cut. It very well could. But yeah, that's it for standard nerfs. I would have loved to see Crescendo. I would have loved to see like Painter's Virtue and maybe like a durability off Horizon's Edge, because those are like the other like really top decks. But we'll see how it plays out. Those would have been minor changes as well, I think. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But there's a lot of buffs, right? We'll go over that in a second. The wild nerfs. So we have the comment on the wild stuff. On the wild side, we've identified a few play patterns that are over the line, even for the powerful wild format. Secret Passage has been a focal point across almost all rogue decks since its creation, enabling an unhealthy power level across the class as a whole. On top of that, Wild Paw Null could be too easily played on turn 1, keeping opponents from developing onto the board from the start of the game. This change makes the turn 1 Null less common and makes playing multiple Nulls less efficient. The sheer volumes of spells that Sorcerer's Apprentice allows is something we should be addressed, so we're making it no longer go to 0. With that change, we think it's safe to return to its original mana cost. So yes, Wild Paw Null going from 5 to 6. So if you play that pack, it will no longer go to 0 right away. You gotta play another Burgle card, and Apprentice. Oh yeah, Passage to 2 as well, right? And then Apprentice, yes, 2 mana, 3/2. Your spells cost 1 less, but not less than 1. How soon until Radiant Elemental gets that treatment? The only difference with Priest is they don't have like the burn spells and like the OTK strats. They just swarm you with insane stats, which in theory is counterable unless they take your minion and kill you with it, which happens all the time. But yeah, long overdue for this card. I know there'll be people upset that they can't do like the infinite Antonidas thing anymore, which was a cool thing to do for a very long time, but it's just never used for that reason at a higher level, and it creates an issue out as well with like animation cheating. There's other decks that do that too, but I think it's a welcome change. I'm sad to see it reworked like this, but let's be real, it's had its time, right? It's had its time, and we'll see. Maybe she could play as a tempo card like she was initially supposed to be. And yeah, with Passage to 2, probably still an absurd card, right? 2 mana draw 4. That's still really good. It's still probably auto-include, and Null probably dies off. Like, without getting it to 0 really easily, I don't think it's worth playing like that. But yes, the 4th nerf for this card, the most nerfed card in Hearthstone history outside of Zilliax, but each module is a bit different. So I would give it to Null. I'll give the nod to Null as the most nerfed card because Zilliax has all the different parts. Anyways, the buffs, which we have mentioned. We have the dev comment of, since our last round of changes, there are a few classes that still don't have many competitive options as others. These changes focus primarily, but not entirely, on bolstering those new classes, new Perils and Paradise offerings. So Eudora does go to 5 mana. I was worried they would like overdo it and put it to 4. Should be a lot more playable. I'm sure people experiment with it. I'm kind of worried it just goes into Excavate Rogue and it's just Excavate Rogue again, but quite possible that happens. But yeah, 5, I mean, it's a lot better. We'll see what happens. And the same goes for Maestra Mass Merchant, also going to 5. Neither lose stats, so this is like a premium stat at 5 drop now. Not, you still wouldn't ever play a 5 mana 6/5, but premium stats, and obviously Eudora not so much. But again, makes those cards more flexible. I was very worried again they would over buff them, and we'll see how it plays out. I would doubt they break the game where they are. They were, you know, very underperforming cards, but at 5, maybe give rogue players something else to do, considering the infinite Sonya thing looks to be dead. But Sonya, I assure you, is going nowhere. Metal Detector gets an extra attack, a little bit easier to kill things, get that coin, or just push some damage. Maybe Wishing Well Rogue's going to see a little bit of a increase in people trying to make that work again. Thankfully, Furious Fowl stays at 6. Just get some extra health on the birds. Harder to remove. I mean, it's a minor change, but again, you make this 5, it's way too good in my opinion, unless you made it like 4 mana, summon 2/2/2 birds. That could have been an option maybe. But yeah, some help for Hunter, but they're getting a lot of 2 really good buffs here. First, Mystery Egg is a buff for Standard, a nerf for Wild, and this will not get you a dust refund. It is buffed to 4 mana. It doesn't say in the text box here, at least the version I have. I let them know I'm reading a draft here a bit early, so hopefully they'll have it updated, where the beast you get costs 4 less. This basically kills Egg Hunter in Wild. In Wild, if you don't know, you can basically go Princess of Hurahan and the Nathanel Lion, I think it's called, and they're 0. You get both of them, and it's really important to get both. Yes, you could go Infinite Rusher still with this, but you can't go wide. The Princess let you spawn 0 mana 6/5s and go on a wide board, put some pressure on. You can go the Lion, but you just have an infinite board clear with no pressure, and you're likely going to die to a lot of decks that way. But you can still technically go Infinite Rusher. In Standard, yeah, you get your King Plush out. It's still kind of a similar mana cheat, right? Instead of you pay the 4 and get the 4 back, rather than you pay the 5 and get the 5 back. It's a scary one. This card's really good in Wild. It's really close to being good in Standard, and Mass Mana Cheat, as we know, can be really powerful. I'll look out for Hunter. This one is very spooky to me. This could be a very, very powerful buff. And again, in Wild, it's actually nerfed. I mean, it's probably a deck they wanted to take a look at for Wild. They're knocking down 2 things at once. So I think that's pretty effective. Fetch, this is crazy to me. 1 mana now. Fetch is 1 mana. You draw a minion if it's a beast, draw a spell. So 1 mana, draw 2 for Hunter. If you have the condition met, it's still conditional. You can basically, it's still weird, right? You don't want to run the egg with this because it's not a beast, or you just get lucky, right? So Don't know what deck it'll go into, but 1 mana draw 2, yeah, that's just nuts. It's just always going to be good. And with some of these other buffs, I would look out. Hunter probably going to make a comeback with some of these buffs. So Hunter getting a lot of help. Warrior, we get a Rye Cleaver buff, so the sandwich now goes from 4 to 3. So you can play Rye Cleaver on 5. We have 6 mana. You can play all you can eat, get that sandwich, and then play it. Will that be good enough? We'll see. I feel like this is a card you don't want to be super good and popular, but it is so bad that you could probably just buff it. So we'll see. And also, you know, susceptible to weapon removal, freezing. It's still like kind of slow. We'll see how it plays out, but yeah, Rye Cleaver is at its most powerful state yet, and will they give up if it doesn't work out after that? Food Fight gets a stat decrease, so the entree you summon will, instead of a 0/6, will be a 0/4. It's all right. I mean, you have to build your deck so specifically around this. I still don't see this ever being a playable card with the current set of cards. Of course, if there's something insane to cheat out at some point, or enough things that are insane to cheat out, sure, but I just don't see it. Like, it's just not worth building your entire deck around, because you really have to, and I don't see it yet, but it will be a little bit easier to do that. Boom Wrench goes from 4 mana to 3 mana. Look out for this card, particular with that Death Rattle taunt. That's really solid, right? Getting like, you can get like 16 damage with this. But normally you've already got the wrench equipped, and then you play it like you almost want to hold this for later. Well, it's a weird one. It's a weird one, but again, you rather it be cheaper. It's just better that way, right? So yeah, you get 1 mana cheaper. That's not too bad. Watercolor Artist, this is a pretty good one for Mage. Goes from a 4 mana 4/4 to a 3 mana 3/3, so you could draw a bit earlier. This card always felt really good in Arena, but not quite good enough on Ladder. This very well could be. You could coin this on 2 and hit Tsunami, and then it's done a 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Like, it's still slow, I guess, but yeah, it's certainly something to look out for. Rayla, thankfully, they did not make it 3 mana. They just made her harder to kill. They gave her 1 extra health. So she was already the best performing card in her deck. Her deck does suck, but it's always very scary to buff the best card. We've seen that in the past. It's usually a disaster. So this seems like a pretty minor buff, but it is something, and we've seen plenty of 4 mana Snowball 2/6s, the Dorians, the Vargots of the world. It's not too out of line with that. So again, something for Mage to work with, as well as Marooned Archmage gets an extra health. It's something. It's not amazing. Even in Arena, this card kind of is like whatever. You can't even coin it out, right? So it's just okay. We'll see if it works well with Sand Sculptor. They both just got 1 health, right? That's all that happened. That's typically not too, doesn't move things too much, but we'll see. DJ Manastorm, I was wondering if it was going to go to 8, because I made a tweet about Mordresh and was it Kaligos are the only other 10 mana Mage Legendary minions ever made, and they both ended up getting buffed to 8, while Manastorm will go to 9. So they're playing it a little bit safer there, where yeah, you set the cost of spells to your hand in 0, so you could like coin this on 8 and then get like a Tsunami out and then go from there. Again, really build around. He has never been super effective, but has always felt close. He hasn't felt super far off, so maybe 9. It's very slow in today's game, man. It's so aggressive, and we're seeing all these buffs. It's hard to slow it down when we only got 2 nerfs to go with it. And my favorite buff of the bunch, finally, I love this. CCG will now be a 4/4, and instead of Death Rattle, she gets 3 keywords on her, and this is really cool. She gets Battle Cry, Outcast, and Death Rattle. Get a random first edition Demon Hunter card. So right away, if she's on the left or right side of your hand, you get 2 of those cards immediately. And then when she dies, you can get 1. If she's not Outcast, you only get 2 cards. But still, I love the throwback to, yes, Outcast. That's a big part of Demon Hunter is identity. Same with Death Rattle, right? Battle Cry, not as much, but I really like the flavor. I feel like this fits the card so much better than the original Death Rattle. I don't know if it'll be good enough to see play, but absolutely awesome change. Probably my favorite of the bunch. And there you go. Those are all the nerfs and buffs in terms of bug fixes. I know there's been an annoyance with like quests and relogging. It seems to be working sporadically for me. Maybe it's worse on mobile or not, but it's showing my progress most time I log in, Anyways, it's not there. The only Hearthstone bug fix is Miniaturize and Gigantify didn't work after card went backwards into his zone. So like Shadow Step or Brewmaster, something like that. So that should be fixed with the patch going live today. Everything else is for Battlegrounds. So yeah, again, let me know what you guys think. I wish there was a few more changes. In particular, yeah, Paladin, Death Knight, Warlock are pretty scary, but we're likely having a mini set announcement maybe later today, probably next week. We'll see, and then the whole meta gets destroyed and blown up by new broken cards anyways. So we'll see. I'll be streaming this again today live, twitch.tv/Zeddy. We'll try not to hide in the arena all day, play some ladder, and yeah, good luck on the ladder. Hopefully it's better. Get your dust refunds. We'll have a day one patch review tomorrow and best deck recommendations the following day. So stay tuned for all that. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.